politics, and pop culture.
What's up, brother? It's your boy, Mike Muse. Welcome to the Conversation, the Mike Muse Show. If you can't see this Kool-Aid smile on my face right now, for those of you can see this Kool-Aid smile, then you know why I'm smiling, because you see these two gentlemen in the box. They don't need much of an introduction. I even wore all black in honor of them today. I just knew they would be in their custom uniform of all black. Ladies and gentlemen, the dynamic, the incredible, the iconic, the legendary, the influential, the individual responsible for all your babies, all your barbecue cookouts, all your graduation celebrations, your birthday parties, your spades party, your fish fry, Mr. Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis. What is happening, fellas?
Thank you and good night.
That's right.
No more to say. I can't do no more.
Listen. First of all, I want to talk about this signature look that you guys have. How did this all black cool guys, the hat and the glasses, become such a thing of yours? No one pulls it off like you guys do. To me, two signature looks are Tom Ford, who always wears a black blazer, a white button down, 3 buttons down. And then I always think about you guys with dope hats, sunglasses, and black tops.
Well, black is the presence of all color. So we like to have that. So I'm very colorful in my black.
Yes.
And yeah. I've been wearing hats since I was a young boy. So, you know, it's been part of my life. My grandmother used to always say that gentlemen's attire would always include a hat. Mm-hmm. So that was just part of life. So all my uncles and older men that were in my family always wore hats.
I love it.
And I stole it from Terry. Because Terry literally, like in his studio, he has a picture. I think he's maybe 15, 16 years old, playing his bass, his red, black, and green bass, with his hat on. You know, that was like his style. So we all just went with it. And the other thing was, back in the day when the Times first started, we're talking 40 years ago, by the way. I don't want to make you feel old. 40 years of anniversary of the Time. But we used to go to thrift stores to get our suits because they were you could pay $10, get a suit, pay a little money to get it tailored, and you'd look really nice. So when you look at the Time very first album cover, every one of our suits that we're wearing are old vintage suits, because we didn't have a big budget, obviously, but we could still look, you know, good. So that's part of it too.
Well, listen, it works. And Terry, I love how you said black is colorful. It has color. I was watching a documentary recently with the artist, Kerry James Marshall, and he was talking about the use of the color black that he has. And in his paintings for his canvas, and when he paints black people, he uses about 5 different shades of black. And he says that because there are different ranges in black. He said we're also so used to red having multiple hues within the scheme of red, or blue or green. And he was like, black is exactly the same. There is a whole scale when it comes to black and blackness. And I think you saying that personifies exactly what that means. And that's because blackness gets pigeonholed and this monolithic thing, and it's not monolithic, which literally I think is a metaphor for the trajectory of you guys' career. You guys have spanned the genres and the artists that you have, because without this limited monolithic thought process. For you, what has driven that for the both of you, in the sense of not sticking to one genre or one different types of artists, just as the color black has so many different types of hues? I think that's such an interesting metaphor for you two.
I think it's an interesting question. I don't think anybody's asked that question exactly like that, Mike. But I would say a lot of it has to come with our environment we grew up in was Minneapolis. So we grew up being exposed to a whole lot of different kinds of music. It wasn't just one thing, you know, New York had a sound, LA had a sound. So everybody had their own sound. Minneapolis was really the melting pot of all of those things, as exemplified really by Prince. If you think about the music that Prince made, it was informed by James Brown, but it was also informed by Lindsey Buckingham and Carlos Santana, and you know what I'm saying? Like, there's all these different, you know, Sly and the Family Stone, Jimi Hendrix. So that kind of melting pot of music and the musical influences, I think, really was kind of our thing. The other thing was, when we were growing up, we were playing in bands, and we had to learn all the hits of the day, right? Because whether you were playing a bar mitzvah one day, playing at a high school dance the next day, playing at the ski lodge the other day, and people would request songs, and you'd have to know the song. So if they said, you know, hey, we want to hear the greatest hits on, you know, top 40 radio. Okay, had to know all those songs. If it was REO Speedwagon or whoever, we had to know that. Or they'd say, hey, do you guys know Beer Barrel Polka? It's like, oh yeah, we know that. And we had to play a polka. But all of those things gave us the appreciation, but also the teaching of music, of the way music was put together. So when it came time to actually write songs, we knew from playing hit songs how to write hit songs. And also, I was a DJ also back in that day, so I played in clubs. So I knew what would fill the dance floor and what would make everybody leave off the dance floor. So I think in our range, it's just because of our musical upbringing. That's just the way, our environment that we grew up in.
Yeah, we like to call it gears. You have to change gears, man, when you're on the roadway. Can't always be in one or two. So,
well, but the gear shift, and Jimmy, you kind of teed it up, Terry. I want to come to you because I've always, especially lately, as we've been doing lots of discourse on social construct and Blackness, identity, and music for me is the foundation for my work. It's the foundation of all my conversations. It's how I look at politics and policies. And there's always like this misnomer, Terry, that, you know, most people don't understand that Black music and Blackness, I think I will always come back to you with root within Blackness, you know, is a foundation, is rock and roll, is Black music, started from Black music. The blues started from Black music. Country started from Black music, right? There's this narrative out there now that, you know, I always get so upset when I look at our Black country music artists, and then the world makes them seem other in their own genre to which Black created, right? And so I'm just wondering, with that being said, Terry, is that why it's been so seamless for you guys to move through genres and work with different types of artists? Because at its core, there's Blackness.
Well, I can't answer all that question. That's a big question there. So in order not to step into poop, I'll just say that, you know, only indigenous.
You couldn't step in poop, Terry. I'll take all the hits. Ladies and gentlemen, just give all the hits to me. Just take all the hits.
No. The only indigenous art form to the United States in terms of music is Black music, because all the other stuff is European. It's brought the symphonic music, all those other music were brought here from somewhere else. Our music was created here, and it spawned off into a whole bunch of things. And what we do as Black people is we always look for a new way to express ourselves. And so we continually move along. So yeah, we create blues, we create rock, we create all these different things, but we're just moving and experimenting with music. And we're not trying to hold on to anything. We just let it all go. And other people adopt it. And when they adopt it, then we consider it to be their music. And I don't know why, but that's just been kind of the policy that's gone on for many, many years. So, you know, I think we are all of it. Like Black is all of it. Like the presence of the presence of all coolness, the presence of all culture, because our culture is permeated over into all other cultures in America. Doesn't matter where you are, what you like, you got some soul in you somewhere. So it's just part of us. That's who we are.
Terry, that was beautifully said. There was no way you could have stepped to that poop. You took a really big question and made it very simple and real and relatable, just as, because you two are great storytellers. And I think for me, thinking about this conversation, my audience knows I never prepare questions at all. I really didn't know what something to talk to you guys about. But I'm just such a fan of your work and the catalog of you guys. These are just natural conversations. When I think about Jimmy Jam and Jerry Lewis, I just want to think about producers of the moment, because to span the decades that you guys have had, you know, this is no one-hit wonders, right? Like, you guys aren't chasing the trends. Like, for me, there's such foundation to your work that really makes you guys the greats that you are, that you guys have been able to not only just set trends and genres, but ladies and gentlemen, transcends decades. And that's not easy to do. It's like the aversion of a child actor, right? Like when they are acting in 13 years old, 14, 15, 16, it's difficult to transition into adult roles, right? Not every artist can do that, but you guys have done that very seamlessly. Jimmy, I'm thinking about, and audience, Jimmy knows that my favorite artist of all time is Janet Jackson. And literally what Terry is talking about in terms of symphonic music and is rooted in everything, to me is reflective in Janet's albums, in particular in the earlier albums. I felt like there was almost every genre like in her album. You had like the house club music, you had that rock vibe, you had the country, you had soulful R&B music. Now, since you guys are the architects of, so many people's careers and songs, was that intentional, or is that something, what came first, I guess, the chicken and egg? Is that something you guys collaborate with, or it just happens so naturally for you guys?
Well, for us, it's always, with any artist, we've always tried to make the music that is true to them. So in that, with Janet, as we've talked about, when Janet came to town, to Minneapolis, to record Control, we basically just sat and talked for 5-6 days before even going into the studio, just about what was happening in her life. And we got to know each other really well. So there was a level of trust there. But we also realized that she had such an appreciation of music of all kinds. We talked about, people who were her favorites, but she grew up, obviously with her brothers early on in the Motown days, and then later on, in the Gamble and Huff days, and then later on, of course, with the Quincy Jones days. So she had all of that musical knowledge, but she also grew up loving musicals and loving dance. And so as we learned the things that she liked, it was across a whole spectrum of things. And so when we started collaborating, it would always be, even like on like Velvet Rope, like it would be like, who do you want to collaborate with? Well, there's this girl that plays violin. Let's get her, right? Let's get Kathleen Battle, the opera singer. Let's get Chuck D from Public Enemy. I mean, it was across the board. Let's get let's do Black Cat, but then when we do the remix, let's get Nuno from the guitar player to come in and play. And so the fact that she kind of had that same kind of overall musical love, but across all music. We were speaking to someone today from Brazil, and he was talking about the Brazilian influence you hear in some of her songs, and 24 play in The Body That Loves You.
Yes.
She loves Brazilian music. That's why it's there. And so she'll say to us, I want to have something with a Brazilian feel. And then that's what we'll do. So we're fortunate. And the other thing, we were fortunate with Janet to be able to do the whole album. So we weren't coming in and doing 1 or 2 songs. So we were able to treat the albums not like, oh, we need a single or like that kind of thing. It was like, let's just make an album of music. And then let's do the flow of the album where we put interludes in between the songs and we can tell a story as you listen to the album. So we were really fortunate that we were able to do that. And I think it's part of the reason that those albums were so successful.
But Terry, these albums, as Jimmy said, were so successful. They're timeless, they're classics. And I'm going to talk about more artists than just Janet, but I think she's just such an easy example, obviously, just because I'm a huge fan of hers. But when it comes to that, and Terry, I started talking about visual artists with you, with Kerry James Marshall, an artist, the always difficulty is when do they put the paintbrush down, right? And say it is finished, right? So for you guys and your team, Terry, how did you guys decide it's done? Like when do you decide it's complete? Because I will say this, Jimmy, that every album was thematic and no song sounded out of place, right? It sounded like it was a story. Terry, it's like you guys had a thesis and you answered it. So I'm just wondering, Terry, how's that edit process?
Well, the edit process ends when they pry it out of our fingers, basically. We get started on a project, man, and we just create songs. We don't, I'd like to claim genius in any of it, but you just create, and you create until you feel like you have the body of work that you want. I think every album is a little different. And the other thing is that every artist knows what they want to say pretty much after you get them engaged. And so when you've exhausted all the things they want to say, and you might look at it, because we look at it from the 360 range. We always say the barber can't cut the back of his own head. So we look at you from the total perspective and say, yeah, that was all fine. We were talking with Jeff Robinson yesterday about Her. And when they came to the studio, they played the Her album, and we weren't involved with anything other than she was interpolating one of our songs. And we said, okay, cool. But originally she came and she played some music. And my question at the end of it is like, okay, where's the fun? It's simple as that. It's like, okay, yeah, I hear about love. I hear about bad love. I hear about good love. I hear about sexy love. Where's the fun? Like, there's got to be some fun somewhere. You're young, you're not old. So engage me there, at least put me in that place. And so they went back and they did a fun song. And so it helps, like to be able to look at someone from a different perspective than they can see themselves. So we love that part of it, and as producers, we just lay right in that cut right there. That's what we are.
Terry, I mean, Jimmy, Terry just mentioned the fun, and I feel like I vibe with each of you so it's like separately, but I just love the vibe, Terry, of our like artist, visual artists, like thesis question, because Jimmy, he asked a question of where's the fun, right? And that's a question that needs to be answered. And Jimmy, I never think about producers asking questions, right, in order to get the best to answer a question for a song. Is that typical? Is that common? Am I just too much of a novice in interviewing producers, or in my mind, you guys are really just that special to me, and I'm being completely biased too as well?
Well, I think a lot of when you think about producing, I always think that the job is get the best performance out of the artist. So that can be on technical terms about the way something sounds. It can be a whole lot of different things, but a lot of times it's psychological or it's psychiatry. It's putting them in a comfortable place where they can really thrive and do their thing. We were talking on yesterday, we were on a Clubhouse and we were talking about New Edition because somebody mentioned how much they love the New Edition. The Heartbreak album was their favorite album. And what we said to them was, you realize that the Heartbreak album probably never would have happened if it wasn't for initially, before we went in to record, we all sat in our conference room at flight time and in Minneapolis. And what happened was Johnny Gill had joined the group, but two guys in the group weren't with Johnny joining the group, and two guys were for Johnny joining the group. So we knew before we went in and tried to create music, we needed to get that addressed. So we sat with Johnny. Well, Johnny was in the room with everybody. And we said to Johnny, we didn't know what his answer was going to be, but we said to Johnny, Johnny, you're really not going to sing a lot on this album because it's Ralph's group and, that's what people know. So, just want to know if you're cool with that, And Johnny said, yeah, I'm a team player, man. I'm good. Whatever we need to do, I'm here. Him saying that cleared the air in the room because now everybody was on board. And what happened was, as we started working together, Johnny and Ralph, who could have been the rivals of each other in the group, because Ralph would be like, why is Johnny coming in the group? Or Johnny would be like, well, I can sing just as good as Ralph or whatever. They became the Mutual Admiration Society. So songs like Can You Stand the Rain, where they sing together, happened because of that initial meeting. So it was like the psychiatry and the psychology and those things happened before the technical part of writing songs and getting in the studio and that. So when you think of producer, I think you think that it's more, on the technical side of things, and it is, that's part of it. But the human part of it is the most important. And that's how you get the great performances out of the artists.
I think that's amazing how you just broke that down. I never just thought about it from that context of psychology and aspect of it, because Terry, you guys are creating the room, like you're creating the space for the energy to flow. Terry, how do you push through that? Because now I'm thinking about like a transference of energy, right? Like, is every studio session about finding the right energy? Is about the transfer of energy? Because I'm imagining artists come in, sometimes maybe close off a little bit. So how are you able to push through from that mechanism?
Well, every day is a different day, man. And you don't know what's going to be demanded of you that day. Some days it's the confidant. Some days you might have to cook a bowl of chili. You just don't know what it is. But the main thing is to create the safe space where an artist can feel that they can open up to you and they can bare their soul. And what comes from the heart reaches the heart at that point. So you want to get that space and make it an easy space to arrive at. Like, when you get to the studio, you can open up. Yeah. You've been carrying the weight all day, but when you get to the studio, you can really open up and you can express yourself. Because, the bad note, no one's going to laugh. The bad idea, no one's going to criticize you, because all ideas are valid. And so we just try to create that safe space for any artist that comes through. And that's just part of the love of it. It's like, as artists ourselves, Clarence Avant allowed us probably the most freedom of anyone. He just allowed us to express what we saw fit. And so we share that with everyone that we work with, because that freedom is everything, man. you know. I mean, even between our partnership, what keeps our partnership so fresh is that we're able to do our individual thing as well as our partnership thing. They're all intertwined together. And it's so important just to feel like you're free to do something that you're passionate about.
The partnership aspect, I think it's so key because you guys have been together for so long, right? Like side by side as a producing team. I've seen partnerships break up. I've seen producing duos and teams, kind of come and go. What is it, Jimmy, that keeps you guys there? Is there like this signed agreement that you guys are contractually obligated to each other for the next 500 years? Like, what is it that keeps this duo intact and in place for as long as it has, still creating magic?
That's funny. Yeah. 500. Yeah, 500 sounds about right. 500. But no, I think, so first of all, it's just kind of the foundation that we're built on is that we did a handshake, first of all, where we said 50-50. And what that did is first of all, it eliminated probably 99% of anything that you could disagree about or argue about. Because I know, as Terry says, in his freedom to do what he wants to do, Terry's going to come up with some great stuff, but it's going to be 50% mine. And I'm going to come up with some great stuff, but it's going to be 50% his. And then, we may have stuff that's 75-25 or whatever, but we never have to worry about that because it's just, let's just do the best thing. And so in that, we also say we've never had an argument. And people always say, well, what do you mean you never had? How could that be you never have an argument? I say, because an argument is something that you're trying to win. And let's say me and Terry have an argument. Let's say I win the argument. That means Terry lost the argument. Why would I want to contribute to anything Terry, for him to lose at anything? That's not a partnership to me, and vice versa. So what we say is we do have disagreements. There's things that we don't agree on. But what we always try to find is the best way to do things. So it's not whether it's my way or his way, it's the best way. And the best way always wins. So basically, we've taken all of the kind of pitfalls or things that could happen. We've taken that out of the equation. We love each other. We love music. Music is the thing that brought us together. But we share the same values, the same morals, the same kind of in our minds. We want to leave music in a better place is our goal. And we you know what, I don't have a desire to do this without Terry, very simply. And Terry's the person that taught me so much about being unselfish. I grew up as an only child. I had half brothers and sisters that were older. So I grew up as an only child. And I grew up around Terry, and Terry, I call him the father to the world because he's got, all these beautiful kids and stuff that I got to grow up and watch him be a parent. So he taught me everything about parenting, but mostly he taught me about being unselfish. And we just, I don't know, we just have I don't even know what word to put on it, magic, but that magic doesn't give it the right due. But we just have a desire I don't have a desire to do this without Terry, as simple as that.
Yes, the three words that I always use is respect, respect, respect. And when you think of it like that, when you know that your freedoms begin with what your dreams are, and then your freedom ends where someone else's begin. So I can't push into his freedoms. I respect him too much that I would try to take away something from his ideas or from his wishes. So I push through into a point to where, okay, it's comfortably uncomfortable. And so that's my passion, and he pushes back, and we find that middle, man. It's very simple, just to give and take in all that, because the respect is so much there. So it's never a question. Usually it never gets to a point of pushing. And it just makes sense.
It just all kind of falls where it's supposed to fall. I swear to God, it's funny, Mike, you'd love this. So there's certain artists that we work with that I swear to God, they go, wait, where's Terry? What's Terry do? Right? Because they work with me. And then there's artists that Terry works with that they go, wait, where's Jam? What does Jam do? Right? Yeah. And they swear to God, you could put them in a courtroom and they'd go, Terry does all the work. I never see Jam. He never does anything. And then there's artists who will say the exact opposite, right? So that's what's kind of funny. And sometimes, like literally, there'll be a song that I hear that comes out, and I'll be like, "Oh man, that sounds really good." And I said, "Who did that?" And Terry will go, "Oh, we did that a while back, whatever." I wasn't even aware of it. Or maybe I'll hear it when it's being mixed with something, and I'll be like, "Terry, where'd you get that song?" And he says, "Oh, I took it off your hard drive. I needed a track for whatever." So a lot of time that kind of stuff happens. So, but it's just fun. I mean, we have a great time.
So let me tell you, an audience, they're here to discuss their new album, Jam and Lewis Volume 1. It's the first time they're being artists. But audience, you have to forgive me a little bit, just because I think, audience, you think I know where I'm going after that conversation. Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis, what you may or may not know, Jimmy, you kind of a little bit more familiar, is that I just love Black men. I love Black male identity, and I love brotherhood. To me, there is nothing more dynamic and special to see Black men in friendship and in brotherhood, and also working together. I actually cried in that movie that one night in Miami, just because it was 4 Black men who came together, and it showed the range of emotions of Black men. We can be funny, we can be emotional, we can rib each other, we can knock each other, we can fight. But at the end of the day, we're brothers. And I literally just was hanging out with not a biological brother, but someone who I call my brother. And I wrote a caption, a post about him. And I said to him, "Thank you for never watering down the definition of what a brother means." And what I see for you two is the personification of just that, right? The fact that Terry can go into Jimmy, your hard drive, and pull out a song and throw it up, the unequivocal trust and love that exists between the two of you, man, is just so special. And just thank you for bringing that to the conversation. That's not what this show is, what this conversation was intended for. I just wanted to take the time to highlight that, to how much that means for me. Just because we don't see that in media. We don't see the portrayal, one, of range of Black men. And then we definitely don't see Black men in partnership. And we know we're out there. We know we are in partnership. We're working together and doing fantastic things together. And you two are the personification of that. So I just wanted to salute you guys and thank you for that. And thank you for bringing that to this conversation just now.
Well, and Mike, I appreciate the ability and chance to do that, because, as I always say, the music is great. The music is kind of what happens, but before the music happens with us is that the friendship happens, the partnership happens. And I always say, I'm really spoiled. When people say the word partnership, I have a whole different definition of what it is based on my relationship with Terry, which spans over 40 years at this point. Almost 50 years. So I don't take that word lightly, partnership, when people go partnership. And I'm like, let's see, you're gonna have to prove yourself, because I know what partnership is, because I have a partner, for life, basically. But I appreciate it. And our new album and all of those things are all really nice, but none of those things happen without what you're talking about, the brotherhood that we have. So we have to talk about that. That's just as important as the music.
Absolutely. Yeah, that trust, man, is everything. You don't even understand. More people need to talk about that and realize that that's just part of maturity. The only way that you can have trust, and I always say this, is to be trustworthy. I don't distrust people until they prove themselves to be not worthy of my trust, but I always work to be worthy of anyone's trust. Because if I say I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it by hook or crook. That's just kind of the way I am. So, they always say the person that's calling everybody a liar is usually the one that's lying. So I'm just watching. People say, yeah, you're quiet. No, I'm just observing. And I try to not step into poop, because what I say, I really feel strongly about. I'm not going to just be talking frivolously about anything that means anything. You want to talk about music, we can talk about music, but when you start talking about brotherhood, that's where it hits me, like in the heart. And I speak up about that because that's really, really ultra important to me.
Yeah, but Terry, I think it's kind of how you and I were talking a little bit halfway through this conversation about creating the energy in the space in the studio. I think I was searching for the question, not really understanding that I already knew it, but we hadn't brought it into the energy of the room yet, which is the brotherhood. But I really do believe like that is why the outcomes is so great, the question you ask the artist, because you two are so in tune to each other, right? So you can't ask the artist to be vulnerable with you when y'all are having strife. And I want to be clear, just because you have partnership with Brother doesn't mean you guys will have bad days, right? But at the core of it, the foundation is so pure. Jimmy ain't going nowhere, Terry ain't going nowhere, we together, right? So I think that that foundation is so good that allows the artist to be vulnerable with you in that isolation booth, you know, on the other side, they can't hear anything, right? Having to trust you guys.
Well, but yeah, but it's one of those things where both of us are not afraid to let go. Like some people have a idea and they hold on to that idea like this, the last idea they're going to get. And I don't think either of us ever feel like that. If I don't get a word in, I trust him to do what's best for me, because I'm going to do what's best for him. So I always trust that. That's just part of that trust factor. And then I do think people buy into that or see that and recognize it, and then, you know, associate themselves with it and just kind of relax into the environment. No, I do agree with you there.
No, I think so too, because I think when people see how relaxed and trusting we are of each other, I think that makes them feel like they can trust us. And I also think that I was thinking earlier when we were talking about, you know, bad days, you have bad days. But the thing is that the artist should always feel like whatever is happening in their life, being at the studio with us should be the best part of their day, doing what they love to do. It's like when, you know, you hear singers, you hear, you know, athletes always talk about, like, no matter what's going on in their life, when they get on the basketball court or when they get on the baseball diamond or the football field, or that's their safe space. That's the way the artist should always feel with us. No matter what is going on in your day, if you're having family problems, you're having, you know, relationship problems, money problems, whatever that is. But when you come in the studio with us, that's your safe space. That's your place where we're going to have fun. We're going to put all that aside for a minute, because this is where I feel like I'm at home.
Yeah. And if you want to write about it, let's do it.
Exactly. There you go. Because there you go. Because that's the therapy. Whatever is happening in your life, let's put it in the song. And that's, to me, that's what you do.
Well, listen, speaking of putting in a song, they're putting in their first album. This is exactly why they're here today, is to talk about this album. Sorry, guys, I just love you guys so much. I just wanted to make sure that people, for me, understand why I love you guys the way that I do. And yes, it's about the hits you guys have created and things you have done for culture. But for me, that is who you guys are as humans, as brothers, as partners. I wanted to get into the why and the how of the producing of you. That makes you guys, to me, so special. And you guys answered all that for me. So thank you for that. So now I'm going to give you everybody what you're here for. And Jam and Lewis Volume 1, it is out now. It is in freaking insane. Everyone is on this album, from Mary J. Blige to Boyz II Men to Babyface, Tony Braxton, Charlie Wilson, Usher, Morris Day, Jerome, and The Roots. That is just crazy in of itself, how you guys got that gumbo together, but all the goodness of that. What does it feel, gentlemen, to be on the other side, to be the artist doing the promo and the press and all the things now? How does that feel?
It's tough, man. My analogy, I'm the king of the bad analogy, so I'll get on the throne for a second. My analogy for this is that as writers and producers, we've always just been like the doctors in the hospital delivering babies. And we're just delivering babies. And it's like, oh, here's a baby. Okay. Now we're like the parents having to take the baby home. Like, so we're taking all the kids home, and they're hungry, and they need feeding, and they're crying, and they need changing of the diapers, and they whatever. That's the way it feels now. So the artist thing is really tough. But we started off as artists in the time. So we understand kind of the idea of what that is. But I think it's the reason that we're always been so respectful of the artists and protective of the artists. And really the only difference is really what we did on this album is just write and produce for our favorite people. And the difference is our name is in a little bigger letters.
You think?
Yeah, but still, for us, it's the same thing. It's really trying to get the best performance out of each of the artists. And that's really the goal.
Terry, why now? Why did you guys want to do this album now?
Well, in I guess actuality, I say it's God's time. We wanted to do this 35 years ago. We started actually working on Jam and Lewis project. At that time, it was actually called The Secret. And we were going to be a band and we were going to do our thing. And we had people picked out to be in the band. And along came this young lady named Janet Jackson. And she came to town and we were working with her. We finished like, well, I can't remember how many tracks we thought we were done. And along came John McClain, the A&R person who put us with Janet. And we played him all the stuff that we had for her. You know, lots of hits, Control, When I Think of You, you know, just on down the lines, Pleasure Principle. And he said, okay, I need one more song. Mm-hmm. We were like, oh man, get out of here. You got enough songs. So we got in the car. We were heading to a place called Rudolph's at the time, barbecue place, just to get something to eat. So popped in a cassette, say, hey man, listen to a couple of our songs for our album. And about the third song in, John said, that's the song I need for Janet. Like, what? That song right there. Because it were just tracks at the time. There was no lyric or anything on it. And so we said, oh man, get out of here. He said, no, if she wants it, let her have it. And, you know, John's very pushy. You have to know John McClain. And so the next day we went to the studio and Jam dropped the track on. And the track started playing. And, you know, Janet was sitting out in the hallway in the lounge and she started bopping and she got closer. She came in the doorway and leaned against the doorway and she pointed at Jam. Yeah. And then the song went off and she said, who's that for? We said, you if you want it. And she said, I want it. And that song became What Have You Done For Me Lately? So
that is crazy, man.
Yeah. So
and Terry, thank you for indulging me in a Janet Jackson story because clearly, you know, that is my favorite. So I appreciate you, brother. Yeah, man. I didn't want to lean too heavy into the Janet stories, but I thank you for that, Terry.
Yeah, but that was the song that was the first single on her project. And that actually postponed our career.
So my favorite artist postponed you guys' career, but you guys made it the career that it is for it to be postponed.
Well, you know, is once that album hit, man, it was just straight out just bedlam in terms of production. Things were coming our way. The opportunities were too plentiful. It's like we didn't really need to think about being artists. And we love to write and produce. And I think just organically, that's what we loved in the first place. You know, being a performer was great, you know, in the time, but that was my favorite band. I didn't need that feeling again. I'd already been in the greatest band of all time to me. I love the time. So I never really felt like I was missing anything except for playing with that group of guys. So starting our own band was just like a, you know, consolation prize. But still it was going to be great because we had some great ideas for it. But Janet kind of put a squash on all that, man, and moved us 35 years out. So the return of Jam and Lewis 35 years later. Keep the funk alive.
Thank you, Janet. Maybe not. Thank you, Janet. All right, guys. I can't be selfish and monopolize all your time. This is just means you guys got to come back on the Mike Muse show at another point. So we can do part 2 of this conversation and part 3 and a part 4 for the next volume. But I do want to ask just something for fun. I know you guys talk about the energy. Songs get made really differently. Is there every song is Here's Your Baby, so asking you to pick one of your favorites is impossible. But which one had like the most interesting, way of getting made, right? Is there like a funny story that you can share about one of them? You're like, how the hell did we pull that one off? Like, is there one of them that stands out on this album?
Wow. I don't know, probably, well, one that's interesting on this album, just because it, you know, we generally don't get songs rejected from people. So I will say Mariah, not that she rejected our song, but we had a different idea for Mariah on this album. And we sent her the idea and she said, I like this. She says, this is really good, but I'm not sure whether I can pull off exactly what you guys are looking for. She said, I know what you're hearing. And she said, I'm not sure whether I can pull it off, but I have an idea that I'm working on that I think you guys might like. Can I send it to you? And we said, sure. And she sent it. And that idea was just a very kind of basic piano idea with the Dream, actually. And we played it and we like listened to it. And we're like, oh yeah, we can do something with this. We can do something with this. So she was shocked because she didn't know what we did. We just basically took her demo vocal. We put a whole track around it. The artist, Brenda Russell, who's one of my favorite artists, had a song called So Good, So Right. And I loved the way that song moved because it had this dun, 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 gun, gun, dun, dun, gun, gun, like it had that groove. So when I heard Mariah go, breaking my heart, I was like, breaking my heart, breaking my heart. But I said, oh, I know what to do with this. We'll do the Brenda Russell treatment. So anyway, we hook it all up. We put all of Mariah's ingredients that she likes, the 808 drum machine, the OB8 synthesizer, the little blah, 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 she calls that the Jimmy Jam. So we put all that stuff in there. And then we took her vocal. So then we sent it back to her. And she was like, oh my God. She said, I got to re-sing it. I got to re-sing it with the beat now because there's a beat. There wasn't a beat on it before. And we said, yeah. So anyway, she came 2 days later, literally, she sent it back and it was amazing. And we mixed it up and we're just, the song is doing well and climbing the charts and, Mariah's back, So that was interesting because normally songs don't happen like that. It was also interesting because most of the songs we were able to sit in the room with the people and do, but because of COVID, we had, in this case, to do it remotely. So this was one where the technology of being able to send the files back and forth, we send her music, she sent us vocals back. We were able to do it like that and pull it off. So it was crazy, but that one was pretty memorable, I guess.
I mean, audience, I could not believe I had Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis on the Mike V show recanting stories of how Janet Jackson's songs got made, how Mariah Carey's albums got made, and then leaning into Black male identity and Brotherhood. I mean, how blessed and fortunate am I? I must have helped the old lady across the street 2 weeks ago or something, because karma is coming back in a beautiful way towards me right now. Jimmy Jam, Terry Lewis, I love you guys. Audience, please make sure you go get the album. Jam and Lewis Volume 1, streaming right now on all platforms. You will not be disappointed. And I have to say, Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis, there is a saying out there that...
By the way, you can actually get CDs of it too, by the way.
No way!
Yeah, you can actually get it on CD. And pretty soon you'll be able to get it on vinyl, hopefully for the holidays. But no, we old school. I just wanted to let you know. Yes, you can stream it. I think we're #1, matter of fact, on iTunes right now, which is wonderful.
Talk your ish, Jimmy. Talk your
ish. But you can get it on CD at your favorite retailer, Target, or wherever you like to get CDs from, or you can order them on Amazon or whatever. So whatever way you need to get the music, we got you covered.
Yo, here for it. I think I'm getting a CD just for old time's sake and just have you guys sign it and frame it and hang it on my wall. There's a saying out there that you never want to meet your idols. In this case, it's false. Meeting Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis has been a treat. They didn't let me down anyway, only increased it. I definitely got to thank Demi Whites and Richard Whites for allowing Quarantunes to happen, where I had the pleasure and honor of connecting with Jimmy on a weekly basis. So thank you for that. All right, well, I love you guys. Go cop the album. Until next time, folks, peace. Jimmy Jam, Terry Lewis, that was amazing. I didn't mean to keep all your time, man, but it was just, I love you guys so much, man. Huge fan. So thank y'all so much. And I'm going to let you guys go be great.
Hey, let's all be great.
Yeah, congratulations, gentlemen. I'm so proud of you guys.
Thanks, man. Appreciate the black, man. We're all coordinated, man.
That's right.
Oh, my God. I forgot. And I forgot to put my glasses on now. See, now I can put the shades on to make it complete now.
Hold on. I'm going to take that picture. Hold on.
Oh, yes.
All right. And just
y'all gotta say that to me. That's amazing.
All right. Ain't nothing old about school.
Yeah, that's it. I literally had him on the side for that moment at the end.
Yeah. There you go.
All right, everyone.
All right, Mike.
Take care, guys. Love you guys. Bye-bye.